What is the Management Lab?
Well, essentially, we're trying to help companies to become as experimental with how they manage, how they plan, allocate resources, budget, hire, and so on, as most of them already are in terms of how they develop and test new products or new ad campaigns. I mean, the reality is that most companies kind of take management mostly for granted and don't think about their management processes and systems as avenues for reinvention, don't think about management as something that can help them build a competitive advantage. So they kind of tend to just go along incrementally changing things at the margin, but don't often step back and say, are there opportunities to really fundamentally reinvent the way we do the work of management?
And do you think we need to reinvent management? What would we need to do so?
I think the three reasons, briefly, Eduardo, where the things that are actually driving us to do it. It's not only a matter of can we, I think it's more a matter of now we must. One is I think companies today are confronted with a new set of challenges that cannot be met with the old management model. Companies are challenged to be much more adaptable, to change more rapidly, more deeply than ever before. Number two, in a world of hyper competition, they have to learn how to innovate continuously, constantly, everywhere. That's not a natural thing for most organizations. And then number three, if you want to get the best people working for you, the smartest, most motivated people, you actually have to create a climate that really encourages people to give their very, very best. You can't treat people like semi-programmable robots anymore. You really have to create an environment where they want to give you the gifts of their passion, their creativity. So all of those challenges, becoming more adaptable, deeply innovative, creating engaging places to work, those are things that our old management model is not very good at delivering. So I think that's kind of one reason. I think we have an opportunity to do this now because there are a lot of new tools out there, new tools of social networking and collaboration, opinion markets, the wikis, the blogs, that tell us there's other ways of getting human beings together and getting them to work collaboratively than the old kind of hierarchical system. So I think we have some new tools that make this possible. And then thirdly, you have a new generation of folks coming to work today that simply don't want to work in the old hierarchical models. So all those three things together, I think, have made the reinvention of management an imperative.
What do you call the old hierarchical model?
Well, I think, it was called the bureaucratic model. And in a sense, you can think of management just as a technology. It's a social technology, but it's just a technology for getting groups of people to do things. And I think what we often kind of forget is that technology was invented to solve a very particular kind of problem, which was productivity and efficiency.
Okay.
So how do you do things at scale in the same way over and over again, using individuals, if you go back to the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, using individuals that didn't have many skills and often weren't very well educated. So the problem was efficiency. The answer was bureaucracy. The problem has now changed. Yes, you still have to be efficient and productive, but that really, in most economies and for most companies, that is not really what is going to help you stand out. So we have new challenges, and now we need some new technologies, some new social technologies that will help us get the best out of people and do more than be merely efficient.
Interesting. Because I'm thinking, even 2,000 years ago, the empires also had bureaucracy, and the Egyptians built pyramids, I imagine, with similar tools, management tools, than Ford was Ford.
In fact, if you go back through human history, I think you're absolutely right. There really were only two ways of organizing human effort at scale.
Yeah.
One was the bureaucracy, and you would have found that in the Roman army or under the pharaohs, and that was very effective for doing, things that were huge, but were made up of very simple, completely repetitive steps. And then, of course, you had markets, because as far back in human history, people were trading and coming together and so on. And so both of those have advantages and disadvantages. Bureaucracies are really good at doing things that are very predictable and simply you need just a massive effort to get them done. Markets are pretty good at getting the resources in the right place at the right time. But they also both have limits. And now we have the possibility of kind of a third way here, but using the power of social networks and the internet and all these new communication tools to collaborate in ways that both allow us to do things at scale, but help us also preserve our individuality and our sense of choice over what we do and with whom we work. And that's something that humans have not had those tools before.
I'm thinking, with all the innovation we see in the marketplace, in technology and science, nobody planned for that innovation. individuals or communities, small communities did them. Why do we have to plan for management innovation? Why didn't small groups just develop new forms of management according to the new challenges of the business?
Well, I guess a couple
Maybe
of things
it's in our DNA not to be that way, to behave like tribes or to behave like we've always done for the last
there's
100,000 years.
Things that are hardwired into how human beings behave. And I would say one of the things that is hardwired most of all is A, the desire to have a certain level of autonomy, B, the desire to be part of a small community, not something huge, but a small thing where you know me and I know you, and there's that trust and so on. The sense of working on things that are meaningful and important to us and so on. So I think in many ways, the work of reinventing management is trying to go back to some of those things that got lost as we bureaucratized, as we started to treat people like machines and not human beings, and say, gee, we still need the efficiency, we still need the productivity, but in a way, how do we do it without rendering our organizations less human than the people who work there? Because, if you think about it, most human beings are pretty adaptable. I mean, I know people, that in mid-career, they take a new job, they move across continents, they learn a language, right? They really reinvent themselves. Everybody today has a chance to be an innovator. If you're not writing a blog, you're maybe laying out your garden at home, or you're doing something else, writing poetry. So that's pretty deep in the human makeup. And then, of course, everyone has a story. People aren't engaging. The story is all the way back in human history. This is how we interacted with each other. But something happens when we go to work in a way that our organizations are less adaptable, less innovative, and less engaging than we are.
Yeah.
So, that suggests to me it doesn't have to be this way.
You get sanitized when you get into the job. Only a few items, efficiency, effectiveness, are important, and the rest are the free time things.
Fine, good enough. If you go back over the last 100 years, learning how to make things with perfect quality, perfect replicability. This is an amazing human accomplishment. And, if you look at the increases in purchasing power and in factor productivity over the last 100 years, it's just unprecedented. So let's be very proud. Let's celebrate the fact we've done this. But, now's the time, to move on.